So did you hear about the podcast on the group message?
Yeah, I did.
I kicked myself out of there. I don't know how. I'm on there. I was like, I don't see it anymore. I'm like, did they kick me out or did my son was Hugh had the phone? I'm like, I wonder did he do something, but I don't know. But I'm glad that you saw it and saw to what I was doing. So I just started this podcast of me being vulnerable last year about my pretty much like the generational patterns that were going on in the family that was more like stay in the house, what stays in the house. don't be
Yeah. That taboo issue
stays in the house. Yeah. And it was really abuse. So I let it all out and I just wanted other women to come on and not necessarily the same situation as mine. I talked about things from my sexual assault. I didn't know that Biden eliminated the statute of limitations. So actually was going through court with him as I was like recording my podcast last year. And
that's what's up. Yeah,
I recorded everything, girl. Because the funny part is like his family was attacking me. And I was actually happy because it was his daughter. So I was like, that means he didn't do anything to them. To me, that's what I felt. And I was just like, they were like, well, why didn't you go to the cops? Why don't you go to the cops? I'm like, yeah, why don't I? Like, why didn't I? It was like, I was a Black girl in the project. No one said to do that. So I went and recorded it all. And yep, so here I am just letting other women, I'm like, I think it was just so liberating to just talk about what I was going through. But I noticed every woman I met, they were kind of like me before I got therapy, would like overshare or just comfortable being vulnerable. And I'm like, this will help other women because it made me feel like I wasn't alone when I got counseling and met other overcomers. And so, yeah. And I saw some of your story on here. I'm like, you've been through a lot.
I have. It's been a rough one. So originally my family were from St. Louis. And if you know anything about St. Louis is really, really rough. Especially, it's rough now, but even like in the 80s, early 80s, this was horrible. Both of my parents are from there. And so my uncle on my dad's side ended up getting murdered. And then my mom's mom, so my grandmother, she developed a really, really bad alcohol addiction. And so with her addiction came a lot of abuse mentally and physically from my mom. And my mom was a young parent. And so my grandmother ended up dying. My uncle on my dad's side ended up getting killed. And so we had family already here in Seattle on my mom's side. Her aunts and stuff was here. So they were telling my mom, you and your kids need to come and move up here. And my mom was like, okay. But my dad was like the only person my mom was able to, confide in. Mm-hmm. And who the only person that was helping to support her. So my mom was like, well, we'll go, but not if you don't send for Jimmy too, And so reluctantly they sent for my dad to come up here with us. So we moved up here. We moved up here to Seattle to stay with one of my aunts. And early on, with us moving here, one of her sons was molesting me. And so we would have like big family get-togethers, like all the holidays, cookouts, French fries. We would go camping together. It was like the ideal family, situation. But nobody knew that I was being sexually assaulted.
How old was he?
I was like 5 or 6, and he was a teenager. Mm-hmm. And so, and my situation, it wasn't just like touching, it was like full on sex. And so I didn't say anything for a very long time with that too. And so, it was, for me, I guess it was so traumatic because I blocked it out. I blocked it out.
Did he tell you not to tell anyone?
He told me, he did. He told me not to tell, but I remember one time I actually, because I knew something was wrong, so I went and told his mom. And so his mom, my aunt. I went and told her. She, you know, whooped him, but she also threatened me too, like as if I was doing something wrong. She told me she was gonna whoop me, and I got really, really scared, you know. And so I didn't say anything to my parents because I'm like, I don't want to go say something to them, and I get a whooping. So I just didn't say anything to no one else. But so yeah, I didn't say nothing. And so when I was like 15. One of my cousins, so that same cousin that was doing the stuff he was doing, he ended up started coming around when I was like 15 and 16. And then I was just like, something just don't feel off. Like he would like try to hug me and try to, you know, kind of like be around me, but something just didn't feel right, you know, that it was just his presence. And so one time, one of my female cousins came over and they were just like, y'all, you know, y'all gotta watch out because this cousin, you know, has done this to this girl cousin and this to this girl cousin and this to this girl cousin. And as she's saying it to me, I just started crying because all of a sudden everything just started coming back. That I'm just like, this had already happened to me. It already happened. And so actually by the time I realized what had happened, that cousin who did what he did, he actually was in jail for killing his best friend. And so I had told my parents, you know, about my experience, what had happened. My mom was there. Huh?
When did you tell me?
15? Mm-hmm. I was 15. So I told my parents about it. You know, they were very supportive, but they were like, they were sad because I didn't tell them about it. And it was something that, and my uncle was there when I was, you know, saying what had happened. And so then my uncle was like, well, I thought something like that had happened to you. You know, what's happening when you were young. He's like, do you remember me coming and pulling you aside, asking you if, you know, he's been touching you and all this kind of stuff? I was just like, I kind of maybe remember. And he was just like, yeah, I thought something was happening. And I asked you and you said no. And so my uncle was like trying to go off of me. Why did you say no? Why did you? And I'm just like, man, I was 6. Can't tell you why.
They didn't know back then how to handle that. It's like you get scared before. Yeah, because that's one thing my mom would tell me, like, don't let anyone touch you, but she would do it in such a scary way where I thought I was in trouble because he didn't touch you. Yeah. And I'm just like, you know, no. So I definitely have been there. Your uncle, did you ever ask him why he thought he something happened to you? Did he?
He would say he wouldn't. I don't know if I really asked him why. He just said he just had a feeling, or maybe he walked in and something didn't seem right to him, and so he was just like, "Well, you said nothing happened, so I just kind of like left it alone." And I'm like, okay. But then so he ended up going to jail, killing one of his best friend, got 18 years in prison. And so while he was in jail, my mom and dad was like, so what do you want to do? You know, do you want to press charge? Like, what do you want to do? And I'm just like, well, you know, at that time, I'm like, he's going to be in jail for 20 years for the most part, you know, and he had just went to jail. So I'm just like, whatever, you know, just let it go, you know. And so then we didn't do anything. Well, my parents did talk to his mom about it. And so it was a whole big uproar in my family. His siblings were saying that I was lying. Nothing like that ever happened. They didn't hear anything about him messing with anybody else. And so I raised a ruckus within my family. And I didn't really care because I was just like, I'm not about to, because at this point,
well, you already have to go with what happened to you. That's enough of it already. Like, that's too much. That's too many people coming at you while you were trying to process even what happened to you, because you dissociated till you were 15. So you didn't even know. So your body remembered, but you didn't. So everything's trying to catch up in a line, and that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm sorry. That's a lot. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Like getting overwhelmed with you. I'm just like, they need to, I don't know your family, but people just, that's culturally, like, that's what happened to me. That's what happened to the other girl that I talked to. That's what happened to the girl. I'm literally like, just back then, their resources and how they would process trauma for us was just unhealthy. And now we're all now there's this movement of healing because our parents didn't know how. It's not their fault, but they just really did not know how. It was just really
because you don't know what you don't know until you need to know it, you know.
Love that.
So that was happening when he ended up getting out of jail. There was a picture that he had taken with his niece and her kids, and I had seen it on social media, and it just really, really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I felt, you know.
That's exactly why I went to the police, because I saw it popped up on Facebook, people you may know, had the guy, and he had a picture with two of his daughters, which he showed me. He groomed me, which he showed me when I was younger. Like, I have daughters too, and I saw that picture, and I was like, I hope he didn't do
right.
I felt that. It takes a picture, just you seeing them around another, it just disgust, like the urge to protect. I love that. I don't love that, but I love that.
And God you wasn't protected, you know. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I had seen the picture on social media, and it was his niece, and me and his niece are close. So I called her, and I had told her about, because I never told her. Well, I think she heard about it, but me and her never had the conversation. So at that point, I was just like, I have to have a conversation with her to let her know about her uncle, you know. So I told her, you know, she was understanding, but she ended up telling her mom, and her mom called my mom, and her and my mom are close. Like, her mom and my mom are like 7 months apart. So like, they're the same age for a while. They look like twins, but they're just really just first cousins. And so they were close. And so they ended up, you know, not speaking because my cousin's mom, you know, was saying, you know, not believing me. So then I literally had to go call the other cousins that I heard it happen to. We had conversations, and they all were just like really messed up in a bad way. Like, even still to this day, one of my cousins, you know, have anxiety being around people. You know, she don't trust people. She has a lot of mental health stuff because she never got the help or the outlet that she needed to be able to, you know, address it, or, you know, heal even. Yeah, exactly.
It keeps you stagnant. You're just stuck. Like, I know something's wrong. I don't, but and you logically know, like, this happened to me, but to really process it and go through, I tell everyone, if you want to suggest to her, get a feelings wheel, because when that stuff happens to us, this is how I ran into it, is going through the sexual assault and realizing how many feelings it kept suppressed. I just stayed in the fear, or sometimes happy. And when I got therapy, I told her, I was like, I feel like I'm sad all day and just have moments of joy. And I want to heal because I want to feel joy all day and just moments of sadness. And she's like, get a feelings wheel. And I did. And I start going through, and I was like, I feel this, and journaling. And that helped me process, at least to get out of that stagnant. Like, what do I want to do next? And then God will tell you, like, everyone was like shouting, like, go to the police, why didn't you go? And I was like, it's just calling. And then in me was like a rage, like, go. And I did. And it was the best thing I could have ever done. Like, just knowing, getting papers and signing off on him being in jail. I was just like, that's what I needed, is some form of justice. So that's
good for you.
Thank you. Where is he now in life? What are you, how did you find your healing in it, or are you still healing in the healing process of this?
I'm still healing, because not just him. When I was a freshman in high school, I was raped, because that thing with the cousin when I was younger, it kind of ended up spiraling. And I, you know, was, as a young girl, you know, was kind of promiscuous, like, it was all in the boys' faces.
You were hypersexual. Everybody, that's every woman I meet, and I made this a business. So I do some mindful coaching and mindfulness coaching. And a lot of women say they were promiscuous or fast
Yeah.
because other people told us we were. That's why I
Mhm.
didn't go to the class, because my mom was like, you were dating him, you were just being fast. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I literally tried to ease my pain by convincing myself I was dating this man. I'm 13, he's 33. I'm dating this man. Like, that's what
Same.
what no. So the word that my therapist taught me, and I love for other women to use to get away from that, because that's why women don't come forward, because that word, it holds so much in our culture of of guilt, that we need like to have that self-compassion. And you were hypersexual, and it's not your fault. Hypersexuality just means you're hyper about sex because of a sexual experience that was unwanted when you were younger.
Right.
Hypersexuality, girl, because we got to get our power back. That promiscuous,
Mhm.
everyone, and that keeps a lot of older women from coming, because I was just promiscuous, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this word come like, no, that's like when you decide to actually go out on the street and do your business. We weren't doing
Mhm.
that. It was taken from us. So,
Exactly.
I'm sorry, hypersexual, because I had to learn that word too. I was like, I was fast, I was just being fast. She's like, no, you weren't.
Mhm.
No, you weren't. You weren't. You were 6. You weren't capable of making those decisions. A freshman, what? That's 13, 14. We weren't capable of making any of those
Exactly.
for ourselves. So I'm
Mhm.
sorry. I just wanted to give you your power back, sister.
Thank you.
Hypersexual. You were hypersexual as a freshman because you were raped at 6. And I'm sorry, but I just wanted you to have that, because that brings me, I don't know, that just, I'm sorry, promiscuous is a trigger word, because like, that's why I told my therapist when I started, I was like, I spent my whole life being sad.
Yeah.
I literally, like, there's moments I was smiling and happy, and I'm just naturally a kind person, so I never like
Yeah.
got in a fight or anything like that, but that was in me, just to feel like I'm a hoe, or I made
Yes.
this. We didn't make those for ourselves.
Exactly.
Our body was
Exactly.
protecting us, and that's the only way it knew how to move. No one taught us how to get out of that cycle.
Hmm. And and with that, for me, it was almost like, of course, like my self-worth and self-esteem and stuff was extremely low, but I didn't view sex as like this sacred, what I'm saying, thing. I was just, growing up as a girl, I was just thinking, that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to have sex with people. When a man tells me, he likes me, or if he wants to have sex, I'm just supposed to do it. You know what I'm saying? So those boundaries that I was supposed to have, I did not have. The willingness to know how to say no, I didn't have that, either. And then because while that was happening when I was 6, with my cousin, my dad had ended up bringing so my dad he's my dad, but he's not my biological dad, but he's my dad because he's already been in my life since I was 2. So that's my dad. But he has a son who was going through really bad things, in St. Louis. And I was like, I'm gonna bring him up here to live with us. We brought him up here,
So your
my mom,
stepbrother.
yeah, my stepbrother. My mom walks in on him in the act of molesting me and my sisters. So I just, my
How old
whole
were you?
life,
How old,
girl, that was crazy.
how old were you?
I had to been like 6, like it was like the same time frame where I was being molested by the cousin, I was being molested by the stepbrother. And so with that situation, my mom and dad did know, because my mom, like I said, walked in. So they called the police. He
How old
went
was
to
he?
jail. He was a teenager too. So he was like 15, 16 at the time as well. But later on, I found out that he was being molested a lot growing up. So that was like, like he was conditioned to think that that's what, like that was okay,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know? So he ended up going to jail, going to a group home. We ended up going to court. I remember having to sit in front of like therapist people, and they had like these dolls back then that didn't have no clothes on, but they had body parts. That was my first time seeing dolls with like actual boobs and private areas. Like, it was just really weird for me. But I remember going through that, having some therapy and stuff. And so I guess so at that time there was just so much happening, you know, with the cousin and the stepbrother, you know what I'm saying? And then later on with the cousin. So I mean with the dude from high school. So all that was happening. And so once I realized what had happened with my cousin, I was just like, something has to give. Something has to give, you know. And I was just like, I don't want to keep living like I don't want to keep being the person that things always happen to and I just sit back and just take it. But I didn't, this wasn't until like I got like older that I started feeling this way. And so I've always been a person, even as a little kid, that always had a connection with God. So when we first moved up here, we didn't know nothing about church, wasn't going to church. My family here wasn't really going to church. And so my mom was just like, she would tell me, she was like, Mom, she was telling me that I would be like, Mom, you know, when are we going to go to church? The concept of church had to come from somewhere. I don't remember where it came from, but my mom was just like, I would say, Mom, when are we going to go to church? We have to go to church because God's going to be so mad at us, you know? So I would like beg my parents for a long time to go to church. I just really wanted to go to church. And so we ended up going to church, you know. We ended up finding a church home that I was a part of for, you know, from 9 years old all the way up through high school and kind of like through college.
Yeah.
So I found some, you know, some solace, some security there. But when I was in high school and the stuff had happened to me with the guy, so because you talk about guilt, I felt guilty for two things. I felt guilty with my stepbrother because that was my dad's biological son, and I'm not my dad's biological daughter. And so he pretty much, I don't want to say kicked to the curb, but he kind of like, you know, sent his son away, didn't have no communication with him for years and years and years. And I felt bad because I'm like, you know, that's your son, you know, and I'm your daughter, but I'm not your blood daughter, even though can't nobody tell me that that's not my dad. But I felt guilty in that. And then when I was in high school and it happened with the guy, and he was much older than I was, I felt guilty then too because I didn't tell my parents about it. I actually waited. So it happened on a Saturday night. It was Saturday midday. And I was supposed to be spending out at my friend's house. They were kind of, you know, fast, I guess. They were sexual, you know. And so they were talking to some older guys. I wanted to be like them, I guess, and went with them. One of the older guys' friends wanted to talk to me, and I was just like, you know, whatever. He was just like, come back in here, you know, so we can have some privacy, just me and you. So I went back there. What happened, you know. So I came out and I was telling my friends and I was crying, you know, before we even left the house. I was telling them what happened, and they pretty much were just like, well, that didn't happen because if it did, then I would have heard you screaming, you know what I'm saying? If it happened, then, you know, I didn't hear no fighting. I didn't hear anything, you know? So they were like blaming me for what happened. So I felt the shame, you know? And so I didn't even have enough courage to even leave the friend's house that night. I stayed at the friend's house, because it was like a sleepover. The other friends were the friend and the other friends was in one of the bedrooms, and I could hear them talking about me. So I just slept on the couch, you know, and then early that morning, I called my mom and asked her to come pick me up. And she was like, are you okay? I'm just like, yeah, I just want to go home. So she came, picked me up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I went straight home, took a shower, and I was asleep for the rest of the day. And my mom was just like, are you okay? And I'm just like, I'm fine, you know? And so I went to school the next day, and I went and told one of the school counselors. Well, I was just like, you know, what happens if, you know, and I explained the situation. She was just like, girl, you was raped. And I was just like, what? And she was like, yeah. So she was just like, you know, I'm a mandated reporter. So because you told me, I have to call the police and I have to call your parents. So they called the police. The police came. I took them to where the guy's house was. They took me to the hospital. And as I'm in the hospital, I feel like right now.
If you have to pause, we can breathe. Let's just just breathe. Because this is a lot. That is a lot. you've been through a lot. And then to even slow down and just your friends right after you were molested, you were then emotionally abused. So you got physically abused, and then you got emotionally abused by everyone you trusted. And that's something to cry about, to experience that kind of mistreatment and distrust in people that you think should be protecting you or have your back. So your probably female relationships even have probably been because of that. Like, that's a lot. And I'm crying because I'm just like, I'm growing healthy relationships with women, and that's just that experience you had. I'm sorry that all happened to you, but yeah.
Thank you.
That's a lot. I need to breathe too. I'm just like, ooh. Oh, okay.
A lot. It is.
And so they picked him up.
Well, he wasn't there. I just took them to where the house was, gave them like which door it was, and then they took me to the hospital. And so, they're doing what they need to do.
Yeah.
And then I see my parents come. And I felt so bad. I felt bad because my parents are really good people. They're really good people. They love their kids. They will do anything they can for their kids. And so my mom felt sad. She wasn't upset with me, but she felt sad that I didn't trust her enough to tell her what happened. So there was a lot of healing that needed, that happened between us. And like today, my mom is my best friend. Like, I love her to pieces. But she was there. She worked with me, she supported me. She loved me. My dad did too, and I appreciate them for not making me feel bad, because I read and I hear so many stories of, young girls telling their parents, their moms what happened. And the mom's like, oh, well, it happened, if it happened because you was doing this, or it never happened and you're lying. They didn't do any of that. So I feel like, and that's how I'm blessed, what I'm saying, to have the family and the parents that I have. And as far as friends, like, I still struggle with female relationships. So I'm the oldest girl of, there's 4, so I have one older brother, but there's 4 of us girls, and we're all best friends. Like, we, what I'm saying, and we all have issues, not issues, we all have trouble with making genuine friends with other women. And I mean, I'm not just saying this because, it's us, and I don't know how to take accountability for my own self, and they, anyways, what I'm saying is we're good people, we're genuine people. We're like our mom, like, we will give people the shirt off our back, we'll go to bat for people. Like, if we love you, if we're in it with you, we're in it with you all the way, regardless if it's an intimate relationship, if it's a friendship relationship. And so it's weird because all of us have had issues with friends that ended up not flourishing because of trust. And it's not really the lack of trust, but it's they always did something to where we're just like, oh, I can't mess with you. Like, you don't love me the way I love you. You don't, like,
not everyone deserves you.
Yeah. And so that discernment of learning how to pick and choose carefully the types of people that you surround yourself with is really, really tough. Because I feel like, at least for me, I try to give everybody a chance, and I, are, open to people and their differences and their struggles. And seem like for me, it's just like, I usually am the one that gets burnt in the process of it. But I also learned that, that's a lot of times that's not like God is using me. I feel like not all the time I'm going to see the blessing. Maybe I'm friends with them, or there's something that they needed for me to be able to help better them. And so I try to look at it like, in a positive light, and so with all this that happened, my dad's sister, she was just like, you've been through a lot. She was just like, the only thing she said, if you don't remember anything else that I've ever told you in life, just remember this. She's just like, protect your heart and don't let life experiences that has happened to you change who God made you to be. She's like, God created you with a big heart, a loving, kind heart. And I know a lot of times when things happen to you, it can blur your outlook on life and on people, and it could she was like, the enemy knows, how, what your special gifts are. And she's like, I really believe one of your special gifts is that God gave you the gift of, a heart for people. And so the enemy, of course, is going to come in and try to take that away from you. And she was just like, that you have to be a powerful person because he's seen that in you as a little girl. And so he tried to stop you in your track before you can even grow into and develop to be, who God wants you to be. So she was just like, don't change, your spirit, don't change any of that. Just continue, just, believing and walking in faith and believing in God. And so
helping others is your gift. And sometimes it feels like, because it's not coming back to us, like we're being used, but we are supposed to be used in that way of kindness. And that's your strength. Lean into that.
And I've, been one of the people, growing up in church, you hear people say, God, use me, use me, shape me, make me, mold me. And so I was listening to somebody some years ago, and they said, we ask for those things, but we're not really understanding what it is that we're really truly
at all praying. Because when I started this, I was like, God, I want to be your vessel. Like I was just praying. I was like, I want to be your vessel. And I wasn't in church. I was just gaining spirituality. I was like, I just need to align my spirit with my flesh. Like I just feel off balance. And so when I started praying, like literally praying day and night, I'm gonna stay at home. Like I'll wake up, pray. My prayers got different. I was always like sitting on my bed or I would get on my knees by my bed. Now I'm like literally forehead to floor, like praising him now. And I don't know what that's going to be look like. When I asked to be a vessel, I did not know it was going to be like this, or what I'm doing for the mindfulness coaching and just all the stuff that's coming. But I'm just like, you just have to learn to say yes. Even when people invite you out, just say yes, go and get out there, because it's our superpower. Like it's supposed to be spread, that type of love and the type of pain that we've been through, and to still offer charity and love. That is God. The devil truly was like, you're trying to spread peace? No. So every day I'm just like, look at him not winning. Look at him the fact we have the authority. I rebuke anything that is not of you, God, every day. And
every
go with
day.
the flow. Just go say your yeses. And even now, like this, you being vulnerable on here, like seeing that, like, oh, I'm going to share my story. Your vulnerability, someone's going to hear this and be like, oh, I can do it too. I can talk about the people who did this to me and help other women feel like they're not alone. Someone's going to be laying in bed listening to this and feeling like they have a voice too because of your story. And that's beautiful. So I thank you for sharing and coming on vulnerable. I wanted to ask you, I was writing questions because I don't like to interrupt people. So it's even my mom, she used to give me chores and I would bring like a notepad, like, so it's just my thing. It's my ADHD thing. But how old was your sister when your mom caught your stepbrother? I didn't know, older than you or younger?
Younger. So I'm the oldest girl. So I would say I was 6. So my sister right under me, she's 2 years younger than me. So she was 4. And then I have a sister that's a year younger than her. So she was 3. So we were all just really, really young. And my mom, she's like in the middle of the night, she had to get up to use the bathroom. She got up to walk out her room and he must have heard her. So he's like fumbling around, And so she goes in because she hears the noise from our bedroom. So she goes into our room, and he's like trying to have him pull his pants up, and you know, and so she was just like, oh hell no.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
How long with your cousin before your stepbrother? How long did that go on for?
That had to have gone on for at least a good 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, you have a lot of pain in your life, and that's happened to you. And the fact you are on here saying the people you want to help and the kindness you have and hold and the smile on your face, it's painful, but you are an overcomer, and those are important people to God. That the people that are hurt the most, we have a mission on us. Have you found things that fulfill you in the field of like helping, being an advocate for what you went through? So that's we call it CSA, is what childhood sexual assault, and I'm a big advocate for it. That's why I do these things. Have you found any groups or anything that that helps tell your story more, or is this just the start of it? Because I can't wait to see what blossoms from.
It's kind of the start of this. I've been getting a little bit more comfortable talking about it in an open setting. A few months ago I did, because I make candles and stuff, and so I was invited to like be a vendor at this church with this lady that I work with, and they had a event. It was for a women empowerment. It was just like, you know, it's time for me to tell my story. So I had like a little bit of time just to give a little bit of something about what I experienced. It wasn't, I mean, I hope it helps somebody. I didn't get out of it what I hoped to get out of it. But I hope, like I said, I hope it touched somebody. But in the other sense of it, I do work with youth. Like I've been working with youth ever since like I was like 14 years old. And so now I do run a at-risk youth program with a nonprofit program that I've been with for the last 10 years. And so we work with, you know, inner city kids that are struggling with like just barrier reductions as it pertains to, you know, graduating high school, or, you know, because a lot of times, you know, a lot of people got a lot of things going on in life that kind of get in the way of them being able to show up at school, you know, and focus. Like, you know, maybe they didn't eat, or maybe they're struggling with finding somewhere to live tonight. And so they can't go to school and, you know, be expected to sit here and learn geometry when they, you know, their mom just got beat almost half to death last night, you know? And so I do that kind of work now. And so I'm in a space where, you know, I'm getting older, and I'm getting more comfortable with who I am and who God made me to be. And, you know,
yeah. It's your testimony. that you like, please start journaling so this can be a book. Because I mean, look, I'm like, you went through so much. And how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I just turned 39 on the 16th.
Wow. You know what is so, I'm 29, so this is my last year of my 20s.
Yeah, all right.
I met so many women in their last year of something, either 19 turning 20. Not that I do all the numbers or whatever, like, but it's something about this movement of we're going into a season together. Like all of the, because I've talked to about like 11 so far that are in these age ranges. Literally, like no one's like 28 or 18 or 27. They're all like the 29, 39, 40. To a 59-year-old. I'm like, what is this? That's like, it's all this is, yeah, isn't that? I'm like, that's kind of, that's what now I'm like, what age? Because it's our last season of just, we're getting our power back. You're getting your power back. You are.
I hope so.
You are. You are. Just stay faithful. Stay doing what you're doing. Keep praying day and night. Journal. Do all the holistic things that I feel like we just forgot about. Like even breathing. Just remember to take those deep breaths and be mindful in your story, and journal your story out a little bit. Like through that whole process, every day I at least wrote 3 pages about how I felt, and each day I started talking less and less about it, but I was able to, or start writing less and less about it, but I was able to talk more about my situation. And it made sense because it was always in my head. But when I start talking to like a therapist and my friends about it and finding community, I'm like, it started to make sense to me, because in my head, it's just like this moment happened. I know this happened. And then it would be like, this happened before that. It would be really confusing in my head. So when I was saying to people, I'm like, that is not how it sounded in my head, And then so people would be like, it would leave like where like people are like, oh, well, it doesn't sound, like question it. And they didn't say I was lying, but I felt like they thought I was lying. And so I'm like, write it to where, it makes sense. And I did. And sharing it, it's like, yeah, like, and I had to do it for my therapist and for court. Like I had to share the story. So it's like something about organizing our pain, which is weird because it's like, you have to cry it out first. But once we start, like you said, like you're comfortable saying it, we can cry without staying in the pain.
Right.
And about like writing all this out. And I'll send you my notes too. I always send I know I'm like, I just to write it out, and I'll put implications of things they said. And my therapist did it with me, and I was like, that works because it helped my journaling, and it helped me kind of in the process of starting a book. Not that was one of my goals, but I just feel like in my journals, like that's what God had. That's the Bible.
Exactly.
In their head to write journals. It's a bunch of journals.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, when I say holistic, a lot of Christians get scared of that. I'm like, no, it's just about walking and like just our survival mechanism from learning the hyposexuality and hypervigilant. Like we're always waiting for things to just go wrong. When we just let people be and make their mistake, yeah, we get all those just put what we do and put hyper in front of it. Literally, that's hypersexuality, hypervigilant. Just look for things, and instead of just being grounded and taking those deep breaths, like it's gonna be okay. Because every time I assume something about even like just women that I'm meeting, I'm like, those assumptions, to rewire judgment, because we judge for so long inwardly, to rewire that is really hard, because I have to settle. It always leads to a false prediction. Like when I have a perception like this person's going to do this anyway, instead of letting them make their mistake, putting boundaries on the relationship, but still having the relationship, I've learned that's how to rewire judgment right there. And I kept so many good women that they make mistakes of, hey, I might not trust this person like with money, but I still love her. She's still a good person. Everybody's still a good person. We just have our own thing, our own mistakes we do. So yeah, God is a forgiving God, and it's like, why, we need to be that too. And not you, I'm just saying like the lessons I've learned.
I know, me too.
Yeah. Like, no, me too. Yeah.
No, seriously.
Going through this made us that. It's made us the bad side of the good things we have, the good qualities, those good gifts. Even manipulation, when it's not used in the best way, but when we kind of carry that charisma and the gift of gab, which you have, it's like, that's a superpower. But most of it's just like we don't jump into situations. We don't lean into it enough. God literally will put people in our lives where we're just like, lean into it more. And I've always ran from it. So once I started being obedient, I feel like a lot of my generational history started to heal as well.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mom, has anything ever happened with your mom and like that?
She's come close to it a few times. She, her and something did happen to her when she was younger, a teenager. It was a bad situation for her. She doesn't talk about it very often. Like she'll talk about it like every blue moon, but she don't really go into detail about what happened to her. And so, I just, leave it, with her, saying whatever she feels comfortable saying. And so like I feel like she understood. So she understands what I'm going through, or what I went through, what me and my sisters experienced. I think hers was just on a different level than ours.
Yeah.
I feel like And so, yeah. And so, I got older. I now, I have a really great job. I'm stable. I feel like I have a good life, but I'm struggling a lot, just like with finances and stuff. And one of the things, I have 3 kids that I'm raising on my own. And so even with that, like, cause I see how, those experiences, how it shows up in my life in different ways. And so, like, when I talk about like the discernment to understand like who's for you and who's not, I have 3 kids and they all have different fathers. And it's just, happened to where I'm taking care of all these kids by myself. And it is extremely, extremely hard. And so one of the things like feel like I've been praying for, I feel like Abraham and Sarah, just without the Abraham. I've been asking God like since I was like 20. I'm like, God, I really want to be married. I really want to have a husband, I'm saying? I really want, and so it just really hasn't worked for me in that way yet. And so I just try to keep in mind, the story of Abraham and Sarah and how they prayed to God for decades, for God to send children. And God had, gave them the vision, you're going to have children, you're going to have tribes, more than there's grains of sand, you know what I'm saying? And so just have the faith and just believe, you know what I'm saying? And they wasn't, so they were, but then they got restless. And then, they agreed that Abraham was going to have a baby with one of the concubines. And that's not what God told them to do. God told them to wait, and so I feel like that story resonates so much with me. So I feel like I'm, still in my waiting period. But what I do know is that regardless of whatever happens, I'm not going to ever lose my faith in God. God said, all you need is the faith the size of a mustard seed. And I know my faith and trust in God is great. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's not even enough mustard seeds in the world, I feel like, that could compare to the amount of faith and, that I have in God. And so I'm just like, God, like,
always
I'm asking.
Yeah, and we always get put in a waiting period where either someone, like I've noticed this with women too, it's like, and myself, like I didn't realize my waiting period was just being a stay-at-home mom. My husband's just like, you should just relax. Like I was just in survival mode. The world moves fast and we got to move fast with it to make money.
Right.
We have a child to take care of. I was a single mom before I met my husband. And how I knew I was hypersexual was through him, because he grew up in the church and I was over here trying to jump on him, and he put my hands down. He's like, calm down. Like, that's not what I want to do right now. I really want to like get to know you. Like, he calmed me down. He like courted me. And I was just like, I've never had a man wait. So when you start seeing that in a man, that's when too. It's like, I know that's hard and it's unique, but you'll find the unique one that really. We always get in this waiting period where I was home. I was just like, oh, I'm always with the kids. I was being frustrated. And then I was like, and then I got one book and then I got another book and then I fell into this. And then it's like, we got time. So while we're in our waiting period, it's just figure out, with all the hats women wear as being a mom, being a sibling, being a daughter, when we take all that out, who are we? What is find our own identity, because we were only taught our identity and we learned behavior with our identity, and all those weren't healthy. Not all, but we gotta find, pluck them out and fine tune us, because that's a lot of trauma that you've experienced. And I'm glad you had therapy throughout, but there's still something that we see in our situations, even with my son and my husband not being his dad. It's like, what choices did I make in that accountability? And I know the man wasn't nothing, he's now stepping up, but like, my accountability was like, he told me a few times, every time he cheated, that should have been God. That was God saying, hey, you just not learning here. I didn't walk away. So I took some accountability from that, and I was just like, okay. But I didn't realize, even getting married to my husband and waiting for that, I brought so much into the marriage, because I didn't heal. I didn't do what you're doing, is in that waiting period, find God and heal. I just went into it just thinking, I got it, I have it, I healed from that, because that's what it was. I was fast. I brought so much into our relationship where he looked at me like, his parents have been married 50 years, and he's like, why did you throw that chair? All I'm telling you is I just didn't like what you said, and I would throw it. I was just being just violent, and I just didn't know. I didn't know that healing could feel this way, and harmony between a man could feel this way, because a man took from it. So I just didn't trust, even though I trusted him, my body didn't. I didn't. Logically, I knew that's my husband, I trusted him, but it just was like, he's either gonna leave, or he's either gonna cheat, or it was all these toxic traits. When I realized I was the toxic one, that's when I make mistakes, but he's not a toxic man. And I made it seem that way. I just put all the blame of everything I went through on my husband, and that wasn't right. But right now, like, you finding God and getting close and loving him the way you do, he's going to put someone in your life, and you have all the discernment you need. Now you have all the discernment you need in your children's story, and your testimony, and all of them. You're going to find it. It's going to come. It's going to come, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. It's hard out here. Shoot.
I know, right? Especially, are you in Seattle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My family is in Seattle. That is one. I'm like, I wish they would all just move. I'm sorry. I'm like, it is so. I live there in Tacoma for like summers every now and then, and my uncle, he died by suicide, but he's not out there. It's just I looked up a lot of stuff about suicide, and Seattle has the highest rate of suicidality.
Yeah,
and they connected it to the weather.
Exactly, because half of the year literally is raining and it's gloomy, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times you can't get outside, and it is beautiful here in the summertime. You can outdoorsy stuff, you can go hiking, you can be on the water, you know what I'm saying? It's
camping. That was by summers. Ooh, I love Seattle in the summer.
It is gorgeous. And so, when it's like cold, not really just cold, but like when it's just gloomy outside, it's just, it makes you don't want to do anything. Like, you want to be in the house and just, it's
like
just
a seasonal depression almost. Like, even I went there once. Was it fall? I went some break, and I think it was Thanksgiving or something. I was just like, never. And I'm from Denver. Like, we have all our seasons, but there's just something about, I don't know. I was like, I can't. And everybody was like, you gotta move here. Nope. Y'all gonna move here, so that's another thing. Maybe I'm gonna send you to. I always send women just the link to get this vision board for Black women, because do something about, like, when I made my vision board.
Come on, vision board.
Yes, and it's just Black women, because I always made vision boards, but out of magazines, there was always like, people that didn't look like us. So once I found this, it's only like $8 on Amazon. I'm gonna send it to you. That was my start of this year, and I mean, like, everything on it, most of it, other than the check I wrote myself, that ain't there. But everything has been happening. Literally, prayer, books, community. Meeting more women, meeting more Black women, spirituality, career, like, all of it's on there, and it's $8.99 just to sit there and kind of just, while you're in your waiting period, pour into yourself, because I'm sure you pour into your babies. You work right after work, I have 3 now, and I don't know if I didn't have my husband. That's another, that's just that's another thing in itself. So
it is. Like, I was just literally just talking to my parents about this yesterday, because I was just like, it is so hard, to, not like you're afraid to fail, because like, if you fail, you don't have no one else or nothing else to kind of like back you up. You know what I'm saying? So, you got to put up with things that you don't want to put up with, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes you may feel scared to try to, take a day off or go on vacation, because you don't want the people to start looking at you funny and thinking like you're not, you know what I'm saying? So then it calls you to like want to, or at least for me, to want to overwork or like overprove myself, because I'm afraid.
I was there.
Because I'm afraid
it's survival mode. We got to get in survival mode. We got to. It's kids looking up, and you have 3. I did it with only the 1, and that, I mean, I was bringing him to work. I was like,
I do too, girl.
It's hard. It gets hard. So again, you'll be in my prayers. You'll find it. Self-care. Do your vision board. It's all self-care. Writing your story, your testimony. You're gonna fall into things that I'm telling you that's a powerful story right there. From six, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I was 14. I couldn't imagine when I hear um people say like they were 5 and 6, I'm like, God has something for you, because oh my gosh, I
Right.
just I couldn't have survived that. And you're a survivor sitting here right now, just help. I would have been like, I couldn't, I don't know. I don't, at 6, that would have just tore my world to think I was at 6. I enjoyed life up until when it was all my uncle died by suicide. And then, your mom, you don't know what your parents are going through. So she's going through a depression, and she's a single mom of 2 kids. So again, we don't like, that's just, they didn't have the help back then.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to what I shouldn't have been exposed to. And, I can imagine if that happened earlier in life. And yeah, so God has something. I'm just, please, I'm gonna keep in contact, because I want to see where your life goes from now, because it's going to have to flourish. I mean, you didn't go through that for nothing. That story is a powerful one. That's a lot. That is a lot.
Thank you. And I believe it. And my mom has a really powerful, like when I like talk about myself to people, I'm like, my story don't even start with me. It really starts with my mom, because she has a crazy, story of her life too.
Write hers out. Get in front of her and ask her how. I would just literally, and I would actually love if you do that and get comfortable that you too come on here and you can ask her questions yourself and just learn from that experience. That would be, and then I can send you guys all the recording, all of that, but her story needs to be told too.
I agree.
Tell her that, like, hype her up, girl. Like, I need you guys to tell your story.
Well, I'm
powerful.
like right now. So me, my mom, and my 3 sisters, we've all have been diving really, really deep into the Bible. You know what I'm saying? We've been having some really, really intense, Bible studies. Like we all have a burning desire to want to, get closer to God, and we all have different stuff. And so we're trying to do this Bible study. I had a podcast, that I had with a friend girl last year, but like I said, I don't, whatever. But
yeah, so when people show you who they are,
yeah, exactly.
I don't say believe them, but now I say when people show you who they are, set boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so we're on the our vision, is to be able to do a Bible study, but one where like a coming to Jesus, but for women, where we're able to help women to build their relationships with God, regardless if you're single like me, if you've been married for 30 plus years like my mom, if you've been married for 1 year like one of my sisters, if you're engaged, you know what I'm saying, and having some issues like my other. So I feel like we all have different.
You all have different stories and different perspectives and just different histories. When you come together, that's one powerful thing. Even now, journal how it is being a single mom, because you're not always going to be a single mom. So you're just going to look back on those notes and be like, this needs to be told and help other single moms, because you're going to find somebody. There's no way that you're not. And when you put it all together like that, yeah, if you guys want to start and even come on here and do a group to just talk about it and kind of plan it together, that'll be a fun little. I love content because it makes us work towards it. Does people are like, oh, you're just, no, I'm doing this for a reason, because these stories do need to be told. It helps people. You guys are going to help. So even if you want to start and I can send you all the audios and the recordings, and that can be your first episode, however you want to do that, or you do it yourself.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I got you. Just schedule it. It's on there. I send people my schedule, because I tell them that's my accountability. That's when my husband's with my children. That's when they're asleep. That's when it's my accountability to show up. So as long as you schedule, I will show up and give you. Even now, so I wanted to let me. Well, no, I'm going to keep recording. I can edit this stuff out, but I'll send you the edits. And then I do 3 posts on Instagram. God told me to rename my podcast because it was Dear Mama, Hi Daddy, but I felt like I was giving too much power and too much negativity towards my mom, when it's like, I forgive her, it wasn't her fault type thing. So I put the Healing Homegirls, because I see what she was going through. Yeah, I had experiences, but she lost a brother. She was being abused. She was struggling with alcoholism. She was struggling with all these things. And I didn't really look into that until I got my healing. So I named it the Healing Homegirls. And I literally like when I was praying and God was like, bring your journals. And I was like, oh, I see now why he had got the Bible. I would pray and hear stuff, like hear that whisper, and I would look up and write it, and then pray and keep praying and look up and write it. And he gave me the color, where the building's going to be, what the building's going to live. It's going to be a Victorian house. Like he gave me, when you start planning your business with God, that thing, I literally, like, he gave me some idea even for this. So he had me rename, he literally was like, you're gonna find homegirls, and like that was, I was like, homegirl, and I was like, and that are healing, and I put that are healing. And so I was like putting names, just messing with the names, like do that too, like mess with the names, even with combining your mom's name, your sister, what the piece that you have, like putting that, and it'll flourish. Like you guys will flourish when everyone does it together. You have to find community and get comfortable with talking about uncomfortable subjects like this. Like I am not, like I'll cry with the person. I won't. We need that. We can't go through life alone. And people have made us have this mistrust for other humans and other females. But I'm just like, once I learned, my first female relationship was with my mom. It was very toxic, but once I set boundaries around that, and I'm in no contact, that's my boundary right now until there's healing that happens. People have to be willing. People have to be willing to go on this journey. I tell people healing is lifelong. It doesn't just stop you from one situation.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I feel better. No.
Yeah, just because sexual assault. Yeah, but behind that, I was talking to the heart healer. She's another therapist. She was like, I remember just not being able to go in my parents' room, and she sat by her parents' door, and she felt she was 2. So that was her first experience of feeling abandoned. Yeah. So then she said, how did that show up in my relationships? Like I was hypersexual. And so other things can come out from not just the sexual stuff, but once we start talking about that, it starts to there's more stories to tell in your testimony that we dissociate it from. And that's when we go inside to self-soothe. So we kind of remember, but we don't. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. So I learned about dissociation, hypersex, all of these things, all of it, putting language to it. And so I'm gonna send you also some books that have helped me kind of start this. I'll send you the YouTube videos that helped me start my podcast, just to kind of, so you can just explore all that. Like you're in the waiting period, what better to do while you're waiting is to pour into yourself. All of it. Your content is going to be self-care. So I do 3 posts throughout the week before I post our podcast, and I have 2 more to go. So I probably won't post this until like another 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. But I will have the cover art and the audios finished that I'll send to you, that you can do whatever you want with it. It's yours. Just like this is it's all content that needs to be spread both ways, so that way people see it. So even on groups and stuff, or I found lots of groups to post the YouTube videos to. And but yeah, I'm gonna send it all to you. Like just start like this story. Your story.
Thank you.
I can't wait for you to write a book. It's going right on my bookshelf. Like
listen, that really is one of my goals. I've always wanted to write a book, like literally. And so, this is confirmation.
Because when you're married, you won't go. You have to invest in them, and then that's another hat you got to wear. We be praying for that, and it's like, well, God, like, put on another hat. Take all your
exactly. That's what you're talking about. Kind of like being careful too. I'm being mindful of what it is that you're praying for, because you don't really know what all comes along with, what I'm saying, what you're asking. So,
he'll send you a man just to tell. Okay, well, I'm gonna test you with this one before I give you the man that's over here.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, he ain't ready. So, all of and I'm gonna say, please, if anything, that's where I started, is this vision board, and it has like books where I started writing my books, and I wrote on top of this literally learn sound, vibration, and meditation guides. I'm a meditation coach now, and this was all from last December. Like just feel it, girl. And I just use the back of my son's little diaper box. Like you can go to Dollar Tree and get fancy, but we have the tools we need just all around. I didn't have to really buy. I bought the $8.99 book, but I had the box. I have people, all of it. We have what we need, and just you have to start, because there's no way. And during this process, I tell all my clients, like, and you're not a client, I'm just saying my clients that I do for my mindfulness coaching, I tell them where I started, because I went through the process to do it in my inner child healing. I went back to what I just was scared to do or discouraged to do, and that was ballet. So I started taking ballet in January, and that led me into praise dance. And so I have
Okay.
class now. Yeah. So in my business, they're like, "How are you? Why do you say it's a faith based?" And I'm like, "Because I take people's stories, like even yours. I will go by the lake and I will praise dance praying for them, and that to me is a prophetic ministry. So when I have those visions, I have a prophetic responsibility to, send books to you. So if you get random texts of what book you should read, please get it, because it has been
I
working. There's
will.
something about it. People be like, "That's confirmation. I was just thinking that." And I'm like, literally something about when God introduced me to it. I was just listening. He was like, "Bring the journal." I started bringing the journal to prayer. And then he said, "Listen to worship music before prayer." Like I was just listening, and I was like, okay. So I had my headphones on and I just started dancing. I was like, "What is this?" And then I called my cousin. She's a praise dancer. I was like, "It seemed like something you do." And she's like, "It's called praise dance." She told me all about it. And I was like, okay. And me, I like to study things. Like she just kind of knew this is what she's supposed to do. I got books on praise dancing, learned that it was a prophetic ministry. And so I put that into my mindful coaching, that when people talk, they're like, "Do you have degrees?" I took some courses with Penn State for positive psychology certificates, but no, I don't have a degree. She was like, "Well, you're anointed and appointed," because she's a therapist, and I literally have therapists as clients. So God will work it. You don't need what. It's kind of like we skipped the line because of the pain we went through. I've realized that.
Yeah.
We went through it for a reason.
Yes.
So be prepared. Like it's coming to you. I know, like
I
that is
feel it. I feel it.
story.
I
Yes,
feel it.
like girl, get ready. We just gotta do the work. We're in our waiting period. Like even I'm just like, my kids are young. I have the time to just be in the house. I'm in this period where I didn't have to really work, and now he's just like, his humor. Like I never danced in front of him. My trauma behind dancing was just like, I just didn't. And the humor behind that is like, he's like, "You gonna dance today, you're gonna be a praise. Not only are you gonna dance, you're gonna dance in front of a bunch of people." And so
Come on, right.
I was like, his humor and things too. So I'm gonna send you this. Please do your vision. Like that's self-care, to just envision your goals, because you have a lot of them. And girl, your book. I need your book. I need your
I
book.
am gonna do it.
Even when I was writing, I was
I'm
like,
gonna
I
do
kept reading. I'm like, this is just like you have to. Your story is amazing. You're a beautiful person.
Thank you.
So I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful that you are here today, because I don't think of anything as survival anymore. It's a sign. Like this is more.
Yeah,
You
to
want
help
more
you get to.
confirmation. Yeah, you're more confirmation for me to keep going, because I'm just like, wow, more women need to share their story, and there's stories like yours that get just that aren't like mine. That's deep. 6 years old, and the fact you overcame all that and still praise God. Yeah,
That's exactly.
yeah.
I agree. And yeah, that's something I feel like, no matter how hard life is, no matter how many times, I'm crying myself to sleep, I just know one thing I will never do is never give up in believing in God. You know what I'm saying? So, and I had just bought a new car June 24th, because I had an old Malibu and it stopped working on me one day. I ended up buying a new car June 24th. I was so excited about it. And then yesterday the car stopped on me. Like it just wouldn't start. And so I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, God, I don't know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to continue trusting in you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just not going to let this get me down. I do have the warranty and all that kind of stuff. So I'm praying to God that, that's going to work out. But as the tow guy was like putting my car on the tow, I just start singing the song, "Jesus will work it out, Jesus will work it out." And I'm just like, that told me I probably think I'm kind of crazy, because he probably think we were talking to
We
the
gonna look crazy to people. I be out by the lake dancing with my flags. I know I look crazy to people. We look crazy together. But yeah, as soon as again, like the devil, he has something big for you, because that just I that situation too. It's like it either kept you from off the road from a crash. You got to look at what can change, and like you said, you got the warranty. Everything is. It's just another test of your faithfulness. And it's like, I know it just keeps coming, like, how faithful I gotta show you I am.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, God, like, how many more tests? Like, I mean,
yeah. That only
what
means
else do
he
I
has to
gotta
trust
do
you with a
now?
lot of things. He's gonna trust you with a lot of his people, and then we got to take that responsibility serious. And now that you're not, it's just a lot's gonna come to what's happening now. Even though it's bad, it's like I still see the good in it. I still
Yeah.
see it keep you off the road. I still see a better car in your future. I still see
Thank
your
you.
faith. So it's gonna be okay. I'll be
Thank
praying.
you.
I will be. I
Thank
will
you.
definitely be praise dancing. You'll be in my prayers.
Thank you. And thank you so much for just, creating this space for not just for me, but for other women to be able to, come and tell their stories. I know a lot of people still may, not, subscribe to therapy, but in a way, I kind of think like being able to have an open, safe space to talk, it is therapy. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Being able to, say what you need to say, feel however you need to feel, and then, be able to like have somebody to be able to help guide you through those things. And so thank you so much for this. And I pray much, 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 much success for you, for your podcast, for you, with you and your clients, whoever it is that you work with. I pray success and, all the things for them to, thank you.
Oh, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. We'll be talking. I'm gonna send you everything. And please, if you have any questions of just anything, or you talk to your sisters and mom and want to come back on here and do it, anything, or even before, I do healing circles. If you guys want to, it gets you prepared to tell the story. I do other things. If women aren't comfortable coming on here and telling their story right away, I have some mothers that are grieving their children. They're not yet comfortable, but I can get them comfortable and in a safe space. That's why it's Jasmine's home, because I feel like I am a safe space. My therapist, when she told me I didn't need therapy anymore, she said, "You don't need therapy. You just need to let people experience you."
Yeah.
And I was like, that's beautiful. So if you go on my link, my little link tree, it has whatever title sticks out. Please, like I will show up and be there. And again, I pray over my business. God, I planned it with God, so it's God ordained, and I believe in that. Like I don't do anything else. So I'm just here to be the vessel, and I know what it means now, and I keep asking for more. So thank you very much for showing up, and I'll get everything sent to you when I get the edits done, and I hope that pushes you to share your story even more in podcasts. Can't wait to see what you do.
Thank you. I can't wait to see what you do too. We're gonna be like, girl, remember when we went?
We had an event together, like I told you.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love it. We'll see each other again.
Yeah, okay. Well, have a good rest of your day, and we will talk.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Okay. Bye.